Hey, I'm Kristen Eykel here at SAND 2016, and I actually had the great privilege, the great honor, and the great pleasure to meet one of the really star breakout teachers that was here this weekend, and he was kind enough to take a moment out of his busy schedule to give us a few seconds. And so I just want to say what a thrill and kind of what a tingle I get from sitting next to you, JP. What do you want to say?
Well, thank you for being thrilled and tingly, and I'm very honored that you'd invite me.
You're blushing, actually, you know that.
Yeah, I'm definitely blushing, and I have intense butterflies in my stomach right now, which feels great, and I'm very honored that you would invite me onto your lovely offering for the world. Offering to the world.
Offering to the world, to the world.
Which is also for the world, I'd imagine.
It would be for the world. So one of the things that kind of happens here at SAND, and I was sort of saying it's kind of like being at band camp, which is really fun because at the end, like everybody starts like hugging and kissing and holding hands, which is really fun. But it's because so much energy is exchanged. So what I wanted to ask you is what energetic exchange did you get out of this week? And
yeah, if I could be so generic to say connection, really heart-to-heart connection, and I would say like acceptance is a big part of that. Feeling genuinely accepted by people, embracing me for my weird self, and when I'm on stage, I'm deliberately weird, and people embracing me, and when I'm being sincere, people embracing me, and then reciprocating that. I mean, there's tons of weird people here, and I love them to death. So being able to meet weird people and connect with them at, dare I say, like a deeper level than the typical superficial connections when we meet a new person. Hey, how are you? How's the weather? What do you do? Where are you from?
Gee, I gotta go.
Yeah,
and that was it. Thank you. Yeah, goodbye.
Before it goes deep. So yeah, to me that flow of energy through, I think, genuine connection has been a beautiful part of my experience here.
Would you say that you get that general connection often in your life? And how would you like to cultivate more of that going forward? If you were to take a lesson from SAND and take it forward, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say I'm blessed to say I do get a fair bit of it. However, something special that happens at SAND is there's, I don't know, like 1,000 people here so like the high density of people to be able to experience that connection with that's super special. And one of the lessons I take away in order to facilitate more connection, and maybe even if I could project this lesson onto lovely people watching this.
No, not that one. Not that one. That one over there.
Yeah, okay. That's
the
one.
You.
Yeah, her. I would dare say, be what you want in another person. I think something a mistake I've made in my life, and mistake is an interesting word, but nonetheless, I'll use it. A mistake I've made in my life is I hold myself back until other people kind of like actively embrace me. But I find that fascinating when I look back at it, because if I hold myself back, like I don't want to be the real me until someone's like, okay, JP, I accept you. But they can't accept the real me until I offer it. So when I'm in my holding back space because I'm afraid someone might not accept me for being me, there's no chance in hell that they can accept my authenticity, my weirdness, just who I really am. So the lesson for me that I hope I hear, and I hope I can implement it more in my life, is be what I want in another person. I want another person to offer themselves to me. I want them to accept me. So I need to offer myself to other people proactively, not just wait in a reactive place until they pull it out of me, which just never happens.
I actually really love that you said that, because it's totally true. One of the things I work with in my community a lot is if you can't experience the feeling if someone's giving it to you unless you already have the receptacle within you to hold it. So if I'm giving you like, oh my God, it's gratitude, I'm giving, and you have no space for gratitude to live within you, it's just going to fall off like water off a duck's back. So what you said is absolutely true. Sort of that, dare I say, give unto others as you would have them give unto you, basically.
And give unto yourself as you'd want others to give to you.
Yeah. Well, you got all Jesus on me on a minute there.
Jesus.
Love me some Jesus. I know. I do love me some Jesus. So what would you want to give unto others that they could then give unto you?
Acceptance is the buzzword inside of my heart right now. it feels good to me to be able to accept others, whether I agree with them or disagree with them, their thinking, their behaving, their feelings, whatever it is, to go past what I would call the duality of
the
their
Maya of it.
Yeah, of agreement or disagreement, and hit the space in between, which for me is really the heart and soul of the matter, which is acceptance. I've been under call it a hypnotic trance my whole life that says I can only accept that which I agree with. And that is a very limited shoebox to live inside of. That means I'm going to be disconnected from a lot of people.
Do you know where you got that belief from? You don't have to share. Just do you know where you got that?
Oh, no, I'd love to be able to share, and I can't pinpoint exactly where I got that from, so I'm not totally sure on that.
It's a super common belief, and one of the things that happens to all of us is that we have a codified set of beliefs that we either inherited from our direct family of origin, we got in our bloodstream from just everyone who has that last name has this, or from our sexual identity, or from even the culture or the time or the country we're born in. So we get sort of different layers of belief of like, well, I can't ask for that because if I do, people will think I'm a pushy female, and so therefore, like, we hold ourselves back in a variety of ways that may not serve our purpose, and certainly aren't going to get your message forward.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I am a pushy female too. So
we love that. We love the pushy female and the male, the Shiva and the Shakti within the being.
Yeah, we love our Shivas and Shaktis. But yeah, for me, it feels so great to be able to have my heart connected to someone through acceptance, irrespective of agreement or disagreement. And when that's reciprocated and welcome to life, it isn't always, yet when it is, it feels good to receive that acceptance too. And as they say, you can't give what you don't receive, and I think you also can't receive what you don't give. I think it takes both sides of the circle.
I see it as a Mobius strip, the infinity symbol that kind of goes from me to thou.
Yeah.
And however big thou is, thou could be a million, thou could be an individual, thou could be the earth. But when you have that expansiveness in your heart and you send it out, it feeds and it multiplies and it comes back in this really beautiful way. And I think that's what anybody who chooses to stand up and teach or speak or be a performer in any way, and when you're connecting with the world, there is always that reciprocity, even if it doesn't look like it's happening in the moment.
For sure. Yeah, and one of the wonderful things I heard you just say is, it's there. The question becomes, do you have the awareness to see that it's there? It's kind of like sometimes we sit around praying, whether it's like literally praying or metaphorically praying. We pray for the things we want in our life, or better said, the experiences from other people and ourselves that we want in our life. And then we sit around wondering, how come my prayer hasn't been answered?
Isn't it here? Yeah.
Because we haven't discovered the sensitivity to realize how it's already answered. It was probably answered before we even prayed. So I do find it interesting, maybe when we pray for something, we pray for an experience, pray for an opportunity, maybe we're praying to discover what's already there. And maybe what that really means is we're doing our best to become more aware aware than we used to be
of what's actually already there.
Yeah.
Which is because gratitude for what's already there helps you to see more of what's already there. So what you said before actually is really true. I think that we have to turn that background of seeing into believing. Believing is seeing. Whatever we already believe is what we're going to see. Like, I believe everything is like this. Well, then guess what? It's going to show up in spades.
For sure.
Versus believing and then getting to see that.
Yeah. And I think it actually takes a lot of courage to, challenge ourselves to more empowering beliefs, and actually, I hate the word abundant. I also hate the word hate. But anyway, challenging ourselves to more abundant beliefs. It takes a lot of courage, I think, to be willing to see what's beyond our comfort zone. And if we can sort of realize it's already there, we have to believe it. And believe it isn't, in this sense, I don't think it's like imagining it could be true or creating fairy tale imagination. It's like actually believing that it is already there. I just haven't discovered it. And it takes courage in order to believe it so we can see it, because if we're seeing something that we haven't been seeing, it means we're breaking our comfort zone. And I think the coffin of our comfort zone is something that parts of our ego, find just great. It's like a great sanctuary for our self-preservation ego, and luckily it's death for our self-realization instincts, in my opinion.
That was profound. You should write that shit down.
I think it was profound that you thought that was profound.
Yeah, the death of the ego. I think it's kind of, this is one of the things I actually talk about a lot, is the sense that it's really important to have a very strong, healthy ego, because otherwise we become squashed by someone else's big, strong, giant ego that's coming at us.
Sure.
So we have to have it strong enough in order to hold our own space, and yet not so overpowering that we're just like being the bully in the room. And so there's something very powerful about having that balanced ego.
Yeah, for me, the heart and soul of what I heard you say is balance. Not too rigid, not too flimsy, just kind of like the cell membranes in our body. They say we have 100 trillion cells, and it is a huge problem when our cell membranes are too stiff. Nutrition can't get in, toxins can't get out, and if there's not enough integrity, if they're too fluid, then we're
a big globby mess.
We're a big globby mess, and our cells can mutate and deform in ways that work against us. So thank God for the ego, and can we strive to have a balanced ego, as you mentioned, rather than trying to get rid of our ego. And by the way, how egotistical is it to try and have no ego? Like, nothing could be more gratifying to our ego than to be the one who says, I have no ego.
I have no ego.
That's fascinating.
It's a first clue right there to giant ego just walked in the room.
Absolutely. There was a guy here, I used to know him in San Diego. He'd walk right in. I'm being a judgmental bastard right now. He'd walk in and he would literally say, I have no ego. And I said, well, okay, who's I?
Yeah.
Like, how do you have a sense of... So it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to somebody here earlier this weekend, and he was saying, I haven't had a negative feeling in years. I just live in happiness, peace, and bliss all the time. And I was like, well, that's really beautiful. What are your interpersonal relationships like? Because that's really, it's wonderful if you can be totally blissful all the time, but try doing that with a 4-year-old, and it's suddenly challenging, right? So I was curious, and he goes, oh, well, I don't really have a lot of I sort of cave-like myself quite a bit. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a great choice. It keeps you in the integrity of not having to interact with the negative feelings all that often, because you get to insulate yourself with only the good feelings. So I said, would you do an experiment with me? And he's like, oh my God, totally, absolutely. So, because I can get away with a lot sometimes, right? So I
charmed him into an experiment.
No, I just asked nicely with a smile. Tink. So I sat in front of him and I just looked at him.
Mm-hmm.
And his cheek started to twitch. Mm-hmm. And he started to look all around the room. And I was like, it's okay, you're totally... and I was maybe 6 feet away from him. I was not sitting I'm sitting in his lap right now, which you can't see, but I'm sitting in his lap. And so he's even able to...
And you're going to give me your Christmas wish list pretty soon?
I am, Santa. Thank you. But what happens is when we start to sit with someone looking at you, and just looking at you. So I'll challenge you, take that experiment. What does it feel like to actually just look at someone? Unapologetically, just look at them. Don't decorate it. Don't wiggle. Don't smile. Nothing. Just open your heart and be with somebody.
Yeah.
And this beautiful man who says he's never felt an uncomfortable moment, he got squirmy to the point he had to get up and leave.
Yeah. I lived for a number of years, especially in my late teens and early 20s, where I vilified quote unquote negative emotions. That's another term I don't like. But I vilified negative emotions that felt uncomfortable, but I justified it with spiritualizations.
Yeah. Very common.
Here's my dysfunction, but I'm actually going to convince myself I'll write a story, then I'll believe the story, that this makes me more virtuous, it makes me more evolved. What I learned is that was just me being very emotionally disconnected. And I think the idea of vilifying uncomfortable emotions, especially when we call them negative emotions, that's a very negative attitude. It's a negative state that we reside in against negative emotions. And I think it's we get to project it onto the emotions, but there we are vibrating at the state
of it.
We think they're so negative because that's the state we're in. We're taking a very negative attitude towards the negative emotions. And to me, emotions that are uncomfortable, I won't pretend that I love to experience them. Yet what I'm doing my best to learn, I already know it intellectually, but I'm doing my best to learn it in an embodiment, is that it's incredibly healthy to feel uncomfortable emotions when they're naturally arising. I don't think uncomfortable emotions, I don't think they've ever hurt anybody. I think trying to avoid the uncomfortable emotions is what hurts us.
Well, it is, because the avoidance of the uncomfortable emotion causes us to cut ourselves, or causes us to drink ourselves into oblivion, or sleep with random strangers, or numb ourselves in some way to cause that buffer zone between us and what doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And just sitting with that thing and having the as you said, the trust and the connected community around to know that you are safe and it's okay to actually allow yourself to feel the rage as long as you don't spew it on others, right?
Yeah.
So having that safe zone and learning to appropriately deal with things, it's truly a blessing.
For sure. I think once upon a time, a truth for me, and my experience, the truth for a lot of people is, in our childhoods, we had the experience, it's not safe for me to feel emotions that are unsafe because I don't feel like I have the support around me, and I feel like I'll make my environment, my parents unstable, my family, absolutely. And here we are, 2016, yet still reacting to a world, like it was in our childhood. So I think sometimes it's very helpful to remind ourselves, kind of help ourselves break out of the hypnotic trance we're in of being a 5-year-old, and remind ourselves, like, okay, it's actually safe and appropriate for me to feel feelings that don't feel safe. It's safe for me to do that. And thank God we did it in our childhoods. We had our reasons. I think we were all wiser than we could possibly believe. But what worked for us in our childhood doesn't necessarily work for us. Absolutely. It's like what we did to save our lives as a child will end our lives as an adult.
It's totally true. We have to up the tools. You might have worked with the little dump truck when you were 6. But now you get to drive the real thing, which means you better learn how to drive that heavy equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes an upgraded education on how to navigate our lives.
It does. And the community. Because we are all in this together. We are all one. Clearly is what we learned this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your inspiration, and for sharing it with our community. And if you guys have any questions, thoughts, comments, obviously join up below, ask whatever it is that your heart's desire. We may or may not respond. But it might
trigger your abandonment issues, make you feel ignored. Ask a question so I can ignore it.
So I can forward it to someone else, and then maybe they might answer it for you. that chat group.
Oh, you're absolutely a delight, Kristen. Thank you for having me on and allowing me to be a part of your community.
Our community.
I would agree. Our community.
Our community. Yeah. There's no separation anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. That's not enough.